So we are beginning what has become an annual period of focused practice. It's up to each one of you, each one of us, to find how this focus will manifest in your life, and we'll support and help each other because it's a beautiful world and it's a crazy world. Knowing where your breath is and where your body is, knowing how to walk on the earth, these very simple things, how to be present and mindful as we go about our day. It can all seem so small and like in the face of the news and like, what do you mean paying attention to how I wash my dishes makes a difference? Well, we are going to use Thich Nhat Hanh as our guide. And Thich Nhat Hanh, I think most of us know, died, must be about 2.5 weeks ago now. And I have to admit that I, someplace along the way, kind of began to take him for granted. And I am so happy that we're going to spend this time walking more deeply with him and his teachings. Thich Nhat Hanh, well, in a little bit, I'm going to read you a little of his history. I kind of knew it, but I'd kind of forgotten. Rather extraordinary human being. He was a Buddhist scholar. If you wanted a simple, no, well, it's not a simple. If you wanted one book, the core of the Buddhist teachings, it's just one book in your library, The Heart of the Buddhist Teachings by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's extraordinary. He's written commentaries on sutras. You couldn't ask for a more in-depth scholar. And what he did was transform Buddhism, certainly in America and in the West, and I think in Vietnam, and my guess is throughout Southeast Asia, by making it so simple. Sometimes it's so simple, you kind of think, that's a little simple, but you know what? I think you can get as complicated as you want or in depth as you want in terms of studying sutras, and I love all of that. And we will continue to do that. But you can also just feel your feet on the earth and pay attention to your body and where you are in time and space. And it will certainly change your own heart and mind. And I really believe that on a deep level, it changes the world. So that's what we're going to focus on during these 6 weeks, is the mindfulness that Thich Nhat Hanh brought to all of us out of the horrors of the Vietnam War. I'll also just say that Thich Nhat Hanh is a Zen. His tradition is Zen, but it's Vietnamese Zen. And Vietnam, probably because of where it is located, it is both Mahayana, which is Tibetan and Korean and Japanese and Chinese, and it's also Theravadan. It sits right at the crossroads of the Theravadan, which is the Burmese tradition and the Sri Lankan tradition and most of the Southeast Asian countries. So he was poised, I think, in a certain way, a mysterious way, to be able to speak to all of us across whatever our identified tradition was and to bring something fresh and new. So what I wanted to begin with want to acknowledge that Erica Wild in our Sangha and Chelsea True both studied in depth Plum Village and spent time with Thich Nhat Hanh. And Erica, in one of her talks right after Thich Nhat Hanh died, brought forward the Great Bell Chant. And we put it in the newsletter. And then, some of you know, we studied these last couple of weeks, spent some time with Zenju Earthling Manuel's teachings. And I did a workshop with her a couple of weeks ago. And she began her workshop with this video that we are going to play, the Great Bell Chant. And I want to read you about it. Just in Plum Village practice centers worldwide, the Great Bell Chant is chanted every day. The sound of the great bell is so beautiful and helps us to calm our mind and relax our body. We come back to our true home and generate compassion for all beings. And we send our peaceful energy through the sound of the bell and wish that they can hear it clearly so that all suffering in all beings will cease. We all know the sound and the reverberation of the bell is where does it begin and where does it end? So this is, Debbie's going to help me. It's a 7-minute audio and video, and I would just please relax and enjoy it. Okay, thank you, Debbie. Doesn't seem to be sound, Debbie. Debbie, can you back it up with sound? Can you hear me, Debbie?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you back it up and start it over? We couldn't get the sound. We can hear it now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sure.
Great.
Where was I? There I was. I'm gonna have to stop it and then start it again.
Yeah, there we go. Still no sound. Debbie? Can you do sound? Huh. We'll give it another moment and see if we can make it work. You there, Debbie? This happened when Zenju tried to play it too.
I hear the audio.
Perfect. Go.
You got it?
Yep, we got it.
Thank you, Jesus.
No, now we lost it. Huh, Debbie? Yeah, we lost it. Can you come back on, Debbie? Come back. No, doesn't have sound. It's beautiful, but no sound. It's the soundless, it's the no sound of the great bell. Yeah.
I can try stopping it and starting again. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I can see it and hear it okay.
Oh, unmute Debbie. Now it's okay, go.
May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them cease, understanding come to their heart, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Thich Nhat Hanh. That was Thich Nhat Hanh's voice. May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them ceases. Understanding comes to their hearts, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens and a beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully. This little book, Peace is Every Step, it's a very simple little dandelion flower. It's right under our feet everywhere. I decided I have stacks of books from Thich Nhat Hanh, and I'll be calling on different things that he wrote at different times. But this little book is so simple and so direct that I thought we could use this as our core, a mindfulness bell. I wanted to read you the introduction by the Dalai Lama, or part of it. The Dalai Lama says, although attempting to bring about world peace through the internal transformation of individuals is difficult, it is the only way. Could easily say, although attempting to bring about peace in the Congress, peace in the country, peace in the war spots of the world, peace in the Ukraine, is it possible to bring it about through the internal transformation of individuals, you and me? It's difficult, but it is the only way. Wherever I go, the Dalai Lama says, I express this, and I am encouraged that people from many different walks of life receive it well. The Dalai Lama, like Thich Nhat Hanh, embodies this. He doesn't go out and lecture people, although he can give very profound Dharma talks. But mostly he heals and transmits it through his presence and his kindness. He goes on to say, peace must first be developed within an individual, and I believe that love, compassion, and altruism are the fundamental basis for peace. Love, compassion, and altruism. Once these qualities are developed within us, then we can create an atmosphere of peace and harmony. And this atmosphere can be expanded and extended to the individual, from each one of us to our families, and from our families to the community, and eventually to the whole world. Now, your little doubting mind may say, yes, but. But we're going to take up the deep faith of the Dalai Lama and of Thich Nhat Hanh. And during these 6 weeks and for the rest of our lives, entrust ourselves to that how we live does change the entire world in the simplest, most direct ways. The Dalai Lama says, Thich Nhat Hanh begins by teaching mindfulness of breathing and awareness of small acts of our daily life, and then shows us how to use the benefits of this mindfulness and concentration to transform and heal difficult psychological states. So this isn't about not pretending you're angry or you're afraid or you're frustrated or any of the other mind states. You'll see we'll be practicing with all of them. Because in the end, Thich Nhat Hanh and the Dalai Lama, in the end, beginning and middle, were shown the connection between personal inner peace and peace on earth. So I wanted to share with you, because like I said, I had forgotten, and some of this I didn't know. The editor of this little book, Arnie Kotler, was a good friend of mine. I practiced with him at San Francisco Zen Center. In fact, I have not remembered till this moment that I was a guest cook at Tassajara for a summer, and Arnie was one of my co-guest cooks. So we got to know each other really well. You want to be in a rush, you want to be stressed at getting out guest dinners at Tassajara in the summer. Arnie and I know each other very well. And when some of us left Zen Center at a certain point when things are difficult, Arnie and his partner and my also good friend Therese Fitzgerald went and practiced with Thich Nhat Hanh. Here's a little bit of his history. Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm going to skip through this, but I think it's worth noting. Thich Nhat Hanh was born in central Vietnam in 1926 and was ordained as a Buddhist monk in 1942 when he was 16. And just 8 years later, he co-founded what was to become the foremost center of Buddhist studies in South Vietnam. Then in 1961, he came to the United States to study and teach comparative religion at Columbia and Princeton University. I actually don't think I knew that. But by 1963, his monk colleagues in Vietnam telegraphed him to come home to join them in their work to stop the war following the fall of the oppressive Diem regime. He immediately returned and helped lead one of the great nonviolent resistant movements of the century, based entirely on Gandhian principles. He founded the School of Youth for Social Service. Teams of young people went into the countryside to establish schools and health clinics, and later rebuilt villages that had been bombed. And by the fall of Saigon, there were more than 10,000 monks, nuns, and social workers involved in the work. He also established what was to become the most prestigious publishing house in Vietnam. And when he called for the reconciliation between the warring parties in Vietnam, in his writings were censored, and he was eventually ostracized from the country. He wouldn't take a side. He refused to take a side in the midst of a war. When he came to the United States in 1966, he met Martin Luther King. Many of you have seen those pictures of him. Martin Luther King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. And it was one of the main reasons that Martin Luther King came out against the Vietnamese War. Thomas Merton said this about Thich Nhat Hanh. They met. Just the way he opens the door and enters a room demonstrates his understanding. He is a true monk. Thich Nhat Hanh is my brother. Oh, it was when in 1969 he set up the Buddhist peace delegation a delegation to the Paris peace talks that he was refused permission to return to Vietnam. He then, I thought this was really interesting. I mean, among these other things, he wasn't allowed to come back, and so for 5 years he just stayed in retreat. In the midst of these horrible circumstances, he just went into retreat. And then in 1982, he established Plum Village and continued on to lead retreats all over the world. His way of teaching centers around conscious breathing, the awareness of each breath, and through conscious breathing, mindfulness of each act of daily life. Meditation, he tells us, is not just in a meditation hall. It is just as sacred to wash the dishes mindfully as to bow deeply or to light incense. Clearly, a rather extraordinary human being. And what he's remembered for is sitting with children around him and how much people just wanted to walk next to him for his presence. We are all extraordinary human beings, each in our own particular way. We each have our own, one could say, orbit of influence. Even if you never go outside of your home. The spot of earth where you sit, the sky over your head, the timbre of your voice, the quality of your heart is the sound of the bell. How we bring ourselves home when we get lost in distraction or fear or anger. This is the teaching. And I think it was needed during the time of the Vietnam War. It's needed now when there is so much dissension. Both in our country and in the borders, Ukraine and Russia. How we be matters. So here is an encouragement. Little book begins with 24 brand new hours. Every morning, when you wake up, you have 24 brand new hours to live. I'll say that again. Every morning when you wake up, you have 24 brand new hours to live. What a precious gift. We have the capacity to live in a way that these 24 hours will bring peace, joy, and happiness to ourselves and others. Peace is present right here and now, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. The question is whether or not we are in touch with it. We don't have to travel far away to enjoy the blue sky. We don't have to leave our city or even our neighborhood to enjoy the eyes of a beautiful child or your own when you look in the mirror. Even the air we breathe can be a source of joy. We can smile, breathe, walk, and eat our meals in a way that allows us to be in touch with the abundance of happiness that is available. We can, I will say this again because this will be our practice, smile, breathe, walk, and eat our meals in a way that allows us to be in touch with the abundance, the boundlessness of happiness that is available. Thich Nhat Hanh didn't make this up out of some place that was easy. He learned this in the depths of the war. And he's passing it to us now. He says we are very good at preparing to live, but not very good at living. We know how to sacrifice 10 years for a diploma, and we're willing to work very hard to do this and to do that and so on. But we have difficulty remembering that we are alive in the present moment. The only moment there is for us to be alive. This present moment is the only moment there is for us to be alive. Everything else is an idea, a memory, a projection onto the future. It's not that we shouldn't plan. Please plan if you need to plan. Then take a breath and be here with it so that you can respond to, just in case your plan doesn't exactly go as you planned, because it probably won't. And you'll miss a whole lot of wonderful things along the way, not to mention being able to stay with your own heart and body and mind and whatever's here for the benefit of all beings. Every breath we take, every step we make can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity. We need only to be awake and alive in the present moment for this happiness to be possible. Just keep coming back to the present moment. Sounds too simple to be true, huh? And just keep coming back to the present moment is a practice. It takes intention. It takes energy. It takes love. It takes falling down and getting up. And if we really want what we think we want, deeply all the way through, we're just going to keep trying this on for 6 weeks and then forever. Not like we haven't been doing it already, but we're going to help each other. Keep coming back. Breath. Present moment, wonderful moment. So here's what I thought we could do